And here we go.
You're listening to Well Met, a Hearthstone podcast brought to you by BlizzPro.com.
Well met.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode number 20 of Well Met. I'm John, I'll be your host this evening, but don't worry, the rest of the gang is here. First, from Saskatoon, Canada, it is Kevin Hovdestad. Hey, Kev.
How's it going, John?
It's going really good. I feel like I nailed that intro and transition.
You really did. You really did.
You know.
And can I just say how excited I am to be on episode 20 already? Like, I know we kind of chatted about that earlier, but that's totally insane to me. 20 straight shows every week like clockwork. We've got tons of new stuff to talk about, more than ever right now, which is amazing. And actually, I was just going to drop a real quick shout out to our former host of the Hearth Pro show, Mark, because he was the one who said when we first got started, he listened to our first episode and he says, by episode 20, we'd rule all of esports. So this is the one.
And you're going straight from this to cast a tournament, right?
I am actually, yeah.
So the esports, we shall rule. We also have from Kansas City, with his first place Kansas City Royals hat, it's JR Cook. Hey, JR.
Hey, John. So not only do we now rule esports, but Kansas City rules sports. So
yep,
just next is the world, right?
Okay, whatever. Just have your way.
Have your moment. Enjoy it.
All right, guys. How'd you do on the ladder this week? JR, you go first.
I'm
no,
going
kidding.
last.
Kevin has to go.
Going last.
You're going
no,
last?
I'm going last. I want to hear you two battle it out first. I want to hear where we're at on the big bet.
All right, JR.
I want John to go first.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Go first, John.
Okay.
Do it.
I'm at rank 5. 3 stars.
How many stars? 3 stars.
How you doing?
You're ahead of me by 1 star.
Ah, suck it!
That's amazing.
But
So the race is on, is what you're saying.
I'm going to get so many mean emails about what I just did into my microphone. I'm so sorry. You can send your angry emails to jrcook@blizzpro.com.
and then I'll forward them to John.
He's going to forward them to me. It's so true. So I got
amazing.
you by 1 star?
You got me by 1 star. And the reason why is I have been having a rough time right now at rank 5. And I wanted to be rank 3 this week, but I get up to almost rank 4, and then I lose a whole bunch of games. I went down to like rank 7 like 3 or 4 times this week.
Saw that. I
out
saw
of
you
my
go
way
down
back
at one
up to
point.
5.
Nice.
And I've been trying different decks to see, because I don't feel like mid-range hunter is really working out for me right now. And so I'm trying to get a decent deck to make that final push, but hasn't been working so far. So I'll get there. I'll still beat you, because.
But for right now, which place are you in?
Well, I am only 1
Last.
So-
Yep. And I will say I've only gotten to play so far 80 games. So I haven't even put in that many games. So that's an 80 games I've gotten there. So I'm pretty proud. I feel pretty good. Kev, so I know you were, I'm not even going to spoil it. Where are you at? Where are you at, bro?
Right now, I'm sitting at rank 3, 3 stars. So
nice.
Made a pretty decent push. I went on a nice win streak. But I've been forcing myself to play really methodically. I'm only playing 1 or 2 games at a time. I'll take a break, go clear my head, get a little fresh air, whatever. Like, I'm being very, if I lose a game, I stop. Like, this is 100%. I'm going to put a ton of effort into every game. So,
wow.
My hope is to put some time into it tomorrow, push up to rank 2, maybe even like 2 and a few stars. Which will leave me some time on, the last couple days of the month to go for 1, which would be, rank 1 would be my personal best and where I would probably feel good. But if I get that far, obviously it'll be all-nighters, go for legend, make it happen, because I want it. I want it this time. And I was thinking a lot about it, being that this is kind of the last time we're going to have a stable meta for the foreseeable future. It's a good time.
Right. I was thinking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like this is my one shot where it's like I know every deck, I know every style. When somebody plays the first 3 cards of their deck, I know exactly what's coming. Like this is the time to do it. So gonna go for it.
I feel the same way. I don't know if I'm going to go for it. I don't know if I'm high enough, but I'm off tomorrow. And if I put enough time into it, I'm going to do it.
Taking the rest of the week off.
Yeah. All right.
Nice.
Sounds good. Shall we just jump straight into the news, boys?
I think there's a lot to talk about this week. So
This week in Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft.
All right, so I'm going to preface this already. So normally we spend a bunch of time talking about the news, the meta, all the tournament highlights and insights and all that kind of stuff. We have a lot of big news to talk about this week, so we are actually going to do a very condensed version. We'll be back to normal soon, but just give us a break, guys. It was a giant, huge release. We're going to go ahead and talk about that this week for the most part. But we're still going to get you all your tournament stuff. We're going to squeeze in some meta stuff and get you going. So let's start with us. Well Met, the podcast with Kevin, JR, and myself. So we're over halfway to our merch store goal. And I actually think we just got really dang close to it within the last 2 or 3 minutes. Did we not? Like 10 minutes, right?
Like just as we were getting ready for the show. Although I don't know, I'm checking it right now. I see we're sitting at 155. Looks like with 27 patrons right now, which is great. So cool. You guys are crazy. Is really all I can say. Like thank you so much. True. That's unreal. It's letting us do a lot of cool stuff. So the end of the month is coming. We'll be taking on obviously those contributions for July. The people who have supported us up to this point, when we do hit that merch goal, if we get there, you guys will get priority access to our merch shop when it goes live. You'll get sort of a pre-release teaser of it. If you've loved the show, if you enjoy it and you're contributing, thank you. If you're thinking about contributing, we appreciate it a ton. Tell your family, tell your friends. Like it's so important and it lets us do so much more as a show. But yeah, so the live show, we're in week 2, hoping on that merch shop. Brand new logo is out. We've got some new stuff that it's going to be in the download folder for our $5 and up patrons. It's awesome. Like I'm thrilled. I think it's cool.
Yeah. And I want to see that merch store go up soon because I want a t-shirt of my own, and I want to get a Wilmette t-shirt. And we're actually like on the Blizz Pro side of things, we're actually going to get a merchandise store up with that here pretty soon. I got a mascot logo thing that's going to be happening, so I'm waiting to see how that turns out here soon, and hopefully we'll be selling those well-met stuff alongside with it.
Yes. So thank you.
And don't forget, guys, if you're unclear, $5 supporters get all of our soundboard and art file stuff in the back end. $10 supporters get a custom voicemail. Just email us and let us know what you want us to record for you. I know we got a couple people that are at that level, so we'll be sending out those emails here right as soon as we get into early August. And then for $25, you get a custom print of our limited edition poster. We're going to do a small batch run of a custom poster. We're working on that still to get it done. We're all going to get together and sign those and then ship them out to people. So, I mean, even I want that. Like, I think it's going to be super cool. So, we don't have them physically printed yet, but they're coming.
Fun fact, Kevin, did you know that I have the single sexiest signature of all time?
I did not.
Well, you're about to find out.
Interesting fact. Yeah, I'm excited. I guess I should go to patreon.com/podcast.
Stop. Okay,
we put in a $25.
No, stop. All right. We're done. We're done. No more Patreon talk. But thank you guys so much again for doing that. Let's go ahead and talk about real Hearthstone news. So ATLC week 5.
It's coming up here right away. 4 just ended.
4 just ended, right? So let's give you just a quick breakdown of what we got going. So Life Coach lost game 11 to Dog on turn 5 to mid-range Druid as a hand lock. Ouch.
That hurts.
So, naturally, then that means that Value Town actually took down Nihilum. My boys, so sad, but they took him down. It was a well-played game, but man, turn 5, just the dream. Crazy. He had both Savage Roars by turn 5. Just insane.
Wow.
Brian Kibler is 8-0 through 4 weeks. Yes, he is insane. Kevin, I know you were talking a little bit. There was an article that you linked earlier.
Up on Gosu Gamers. Somebody went through and kind of looked at all the matches he's played and how he got the results he's had. And I think it's a really good article on why ATLC and the team league format matter so much, because Kibler is sort of well known for being pulled in a lot of different directions by his design work on Soulforge and Ascension. Plays a lot of Magic, obviously, still. But he's also now playing Hearthstone. And he basically said when he started playing Hearthstone, he's like, I don't have time to keep up with it. He showed up to his first couple tournaments, like rolled in with just barely enough cards to do a basic deck, didn't know what handlock was. Like he didn't realize that was a win condition and just didn't play around it at all because he was totally unaware of it. But now he plays the game super well. And so with a team to back him up that can sort of teach him, which matchups work which ways, like you were talking earlier in the pre-show about getting some coaching on how to play an aggro deck or whatever. It's crazy how like powerful a player he is with that extra knowledge. They choose who to send him out against. They choose what decks to send him out with, and he plays flawlessly. And that's what's winning him games. I think when the ATLC is done, there's going to be an award for, they're calling it like the Duelist Award or something, for the best single player in the whole league, and he's not eligible for it right now because he hasn't played enough games. He's never lost a game. You have to play a minimum of 10 games. He's gone 8-0. He's not even eligible for the award yet because he's never lost a game. Well, and his next closest competitors are people like Nieria, who are 8-5. That's the next best record, is 8-5.
Yeah, that's true. He's just insane, and he's an innovator of decks. Like the stuff that he plays on his stream, super fun to watch. He can make a lot of things work. He's known as the Dragon Master, of course. So, he's a talented guy. I subbed him as soon as I, saw his channel. He's one of my 4 subs. So he's freaking incredible. We also saw Cloud9 this last week show some life and kind of upset, I guess, if you will, Forsen Boys, who were doing so well. So it's really good to see Cloud9 finally showing that they're in it. They have Colento and StrifeCrow. You should not be losing a whole lot of games with those two on your team.
But isn't ECOP like leading that team though?
He is. I don't want to say ECOP isn't an incredible player, because he is. And during the WoW TCG, he was arguably one of the best, if not the best players towards the end there. So nothing against him. He just hasn't done anything as of late, especially comparably.
But of those 3 players, you would have expected the other 2 to have been the ones that were on top.
Right, exactly. Yeah, totally. Definitely. So yeah, we had that. We also had Tempo Storm take a win over Team Celestial, even after Eloise queued into the wrong deck. So she chose the wrong deck and was disqualified and dropped a game right away. So, wow. I did not expect this from Team Celestial at all. Honestly, Tiddler, going into ATLC, was regarded as the best Hearthstone player in the world amongst pros. It was almost undisputed. He's won huge tournaments. I believe he surpassed Life Coach as the most winningest as far as grand prize money goes, player in Hearthstone. So I think when we saw those players, we really expected to see more, and they still can't get a win. So very interesting things from Team Celestial. So after 4 weeks, here's where we're at. We're at Nihilum 3-1 in first place, Value Town 3-1 in second place. They do track it based on wins. So the team with the most wins, gets.
I thought they were tied.
There's one more win for.
I thought they were 23 apiece. I thought they were tied even. They're tied for, on the scoreboard that we linked in chat here. It shows them as tied for first.
It shows them as tied for first, but they put them in Like they have less wins, so technically they're going to be in second. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Like
I was just looking at the scoreboard.
If it ended tomorrow, they would be in second place.
Okay.
Now you got to make me pull it up. Anyways, yes. So Nihilum. Oh wait, no, they updated it. Never mind. I must have just been looking at the unupdated ones. So never mind. Value Town in Nihilum tied for first. Archon in third, 2-2. Those boys, they have been doing really well.
They're making
Team
a huge
Liquid,
comeback.
Yep. Team Liquid 2-2 as well. 1 game behind Team Archon. And then Tempo Storm, horrible start, but they're actually in 5th place, 2-2, and only by 1 game. So the in wins from 1st to 5th is by 3 games. So it's really anyone's series yet. Fortune Boys in 5th, 2-2. Cloud9 in 7th again, with 19 wins, 2-2. And then Team Celestial in last, 0-4 with 14 wins through 4 weeks. So, yeah, that's kind of the update there in the Hearthstone Pro League. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, when we first talked about this one before it started, didn't we pick Nilum to possibly win? And then we said that we wanted Value Town to have a good showing.
Yeah, John and I were talking back and forth because of the PvP segment on Nihilum versus Archon, and Archon's still like right there, right behind them,
right?
Just based on the number of wins and everything. But yeah, no, we were sort of saying like our underdog pick that we wanted to root for was Value Town, and they're right there. So I think it's cool.
So many cool and great players, right? I mean, how can you not, cheer for Trump, Kibler, Dog, who's on fire right now? They're like the nice guys to the Forsen boys, kind of like bad boys.
Like the villains.
Yeah, it truly is like the most hero anti-hero thing in Hearthstone right now. So, yeah. Well, let's jump into HPL really quick. We won't spend a whole lot of time here as well, but we're coming up with just 3 weeks left in regular season play. Archon Purple and Liquid Show are tied for first at 8-3. Archon Zalay is on a 5-match winning streak. He's sliding into, I believe he's tied for third. And then we've also got Green Sheep on a 5-game losing streak. But he actually just did well over his DreamHack Valencia, right? He just won. Am I making that up right now? I'm not. I know I'm not.
Sounds right, yeah.
Stall.
We can stall for you. I'm really actually super excited to see Show doing as well as he is in HPL, because he was one of the like strong advocates of a lot of different styles of warrior when most people had sort of given up and said like it's control warrior a bust. He was making a lot of alternate warrior styles work and bringing a lot of different versions of warrior decks. And I loved watching, like, I think he was the one that tried the version of control warrior for a while that used bomb lobber, which was actually super cool.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so I mean that's kind of a breakdown there. If you want the most up-to-date info though on Hearthstone Pro League, because there's a lot of games. They play Monday through Thursday for like 4 to 5 hours. So like
it's nuts.
It's a lot of Hearthstone, and it's good Hearthstone. Hop on over to pvplive.net, or actually Danny Ray from BlizzPro actually does a lot of like recap stuff. You can find that over at hearthstone.blizzpro.com. It's awesome. If you don't get to catch a day, it's great to get his recaps and just feel like you didn't miss a beat. So make sure to go ahead and check that out. Another fun fact, I think I can say this publicly now, but Kevin, you're going to be gone next week. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sad because I hate missing the show, and every other trip I've taken, I've actually planned like my holidays and stuff around being home to record for the show. But one of my super close childhood friends, actually, fun story since we talk about it all the time, he's my debate partner from when I was in debate. We were friends as kids when we were like 9 years old, and then went on that crazy tear and won nationals together. He's getting married. Technically, he is actually already married. They had a wedding in India back in May, but they're having their wedding here in Canada this coming weekend. So I'm flying out to Toronto for that, and I'll be there till the Monday, so I can't record. But you brought that up for a reason, because you're bringing in a pinch hitter to sub for me.
Yeah, we've got an awesome guest coming. So Tannen Grace, one of the casters over at PvP Live, is going to be hanging out with us next week. I believe we're going to do player versus player next week, so that he's probably going to be the judge.
Nice.
So that we can go ahead and have some fun there. So if you guys love the PvP segment, make sure to come hang out next week. It's going to be fun because we're going to do it in video too. So,
hosted by the PvP Live guy. Yeah,
right.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's meant to be. So yeah, make sure to come in.
What kind of candy does he like?
That came off a little creepier than I think you intended it to.
I don't know.
Get in JR's van.
Oh,
that is the name of this episode now.
No. I was just gonna send him stuff to, make him pick me during the PvP segment.
Oh, God. Bribery. Got it.
Yes, bribery.
Okay.
I guess I could do cash money, but fine.
Cool. All right, boys. I think we've kept the suspense long enough, correct? So,
yep.
Let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead and talk about this week's big announcements. But before we do, we want to reveal it to you just like Blizzard revealed it to us. So let's go ahead and take a look.
From east to west, heroes are sent, seeking glory in the greatest of events. There are knights on noble steeds, those who will bring them to their knees. There are monsters to test their mettle at every turn. Legends will rise based on their merits. There's even pirates riding parrots. It's the grand tournament.
Yes. So the grand tournament. The funny thing is Kevin and JR can't hear that. So, oh man. Yes, the grand tournament is the next major expansion by Blizzard. Before we go into the details, let's go into the details. I'm just kidding. Let's just go into it. Who cares? Let's go into the details. So Kevin, you want to kind of break down a little bit about kind of the story of why the grand tournament? Oh, you're muted, bud.
Fixed it. Sorry. I'm super excited because this is really cool. This is actually the first time that Hearthstone as a game is having a story that's departing from the original WoW lore or Warcraft lore. So we had Curse of Naxxramas, which was a reprisal of the Nax raid, Blackrock Mountain, and sort of the story of Ragnaros and Nefarian and all the things that happened under the mountain. Now the grand tournament is sort of the epilogue to the Argent tournament. So we predicted the Argent tournament. We talked a bunch about it as sort of the basis for the upcoming expansion. This is what happened to the Argent tournament grounds when it was all over, when the Lich King was defeated. What did they do with the Argent tournament? And this is what they did. They set up a new grand tournament and had a bunch of cool stuff going on. And we get to sort of play that out in Hearthstone as a totally separate, unique storyline, which I think is actually a very cool move on Blizzard's part, because it starts to give Hearthstone sort of its own atmosphere and something that is different from a previous game. It's unique. It's not just them drawing on something they're using core concepts of something they've already done, but they're bringing in some new stuff too.
Yeah, I definitely really like the direction that they were going with. I know some people are like, stay true to the lore. For me, I'm like, guys, we're already playing a card game in World of Warcraft. So, I mean, come on. So, I don't know. I really like it. JR, are you a fan?
No, I totally am. I was hoping for the actual Argent tournament though, because that was one of my, I was secretly hoping for an adventure mode Argent tournament, just because that was one of my favorite raids in Wrath of the Lich King, just because I was a big fan of no trash raids. And it was just a fun raid.
Aren't we all, right? We all hate trash. Everyone's a fan of no trash raids.
I mean, on the
go
flip
ahead.
side, that was the you have to run the same raid 4 times a week tier, so you might lose some popularity saying that's your favorite.
I really enjoyed it. Like, to me, that was right around the peak of World of Warcraft. To me, was
That's true.
Ulduar and Argent Tournament. Like, those two raids back to back were kind of like the pinnacle of World of Warcraft, in my opinion. So, to kind of get that feel to it, but also I really like the idea of bringing in like something new and seeing these really wacky champions that we're going to see. I really liked what they did with the champions. We kind of speculated what the champions might be, but I like the fact that they're just wild and crazy cards out there, people that they're going to bring, like the pirate riding a parrot, and stuff like that.
Yes.
Or the
Captain Sky Parrot, as he's going to be called. Yeah.
The ethereal riding like this giraffe thing.
Energy camel, actually.
Energy camel.
It's an energy camel.
Yeah.
Come on.
Come on. I couldn't remember. Sorry.
Come on.
My bad. But no, I think it's pretty cool.
Yes.
I'm happy.
So let's go ahead and break down the expansion details then. So 132 new cards. We also have a brand new game board. Like so. Looks awesome. Looks really cool. Some of the notes about the game board. So you can eat food from the area and have it restocked. I believe he's talking about in the bottom left of the board. It looks like there's a little like kitchen. You can see some pots and pans under a tent and things like that. A pie. Looks like a beer, maybe. Is that what that is? A nice ale? Could be. The crowd will like cheer and interact based on the plays you're making on the board. I want to stop there because that's really cool.
That's super
like the
cool.
fact that, what you're doing. I mean, you already have like the crowd interactions. When you make a big hit, they get more excited. When it's a little hit, they just go, ooh, and so it's kind of there, but now to have like your board move and stuff might be really, really cool to see that.
Yeah, and we didn't really get to see that in the reveal though, did we? Like we got to see the board, but since they kind of did the games in spectator mode, I don't think we really got to see like the interactions or anything, did we?
Right. And I think they did it on purpose. Like,
Yeah.
I think they want the players, when you sit down and play with the board, they want you to be the first one to like push the buttons rather than this button does this button does this.
Yeah, I imagine it's probably a lot, JR, like the one that we messed around with at the Black Mountain launch. Yeah. Same sort of thing. We got the chance to kind of poke around and play with that. My guess is they'll probably be doing that at Gamescom here coming up in early August.
What do you guys keep going to things without me? That's so rude.
Sorry, man.
God. All right. And then the last thing is that, the last thing that they kind of revealed to us is that you can shoot arrows. It looks like by the test dummy in the bottom right-hand corner. So some really cool types of interactions that we're seeing there that it doesn't look like we've really seen anywhere else yet on a game board. So pretty cool. Do you guys like the game board?
I like it. I think it's awesome that they keep adding them. It's kind of a cool way to just freshen the game up a little bit from time to time. And also sort of this nice sort of thematic touch that they've made very consistent, right? Every time there's a content update, we got one with Nax, with GVG, with Blackrock Mountain, we're getting another one. It just always brings something new to the game. And I mean, I think it helps to sort of show people visually that the game has changed, right? It's a visual reminder that, you got a new expansion, there's new stuff going on. And that's my favorite thing about it, is they keep doing it every time like clockwork.
And every time that I play, there's like always certain things I do on certain boards all the time.
Right.
So this board's going to be no different. Like it starts out like every game. It depends on what the board is. And I'm clicking on certain things in a certain order every single time.
I got to light the campfire. I always have to have the zebra skin on top of the Hemet's hut or whatever. It's
on the Storm 1-1, I have to break everything. I have to Yeah, I can't leave it. I have
that
to
stupid
shut
bucket
the
has to go
door.
down the well.
Yeah, and break the little thing on top of the well.
Yep.
Do you guys use any of the board mechanics to help keep track of like your opponent's cards and stuff like that?
No,
that was something I learned from Freshka. When you're on the Ogremar board and you're playing against a warrior, like you basically once you see, I think it was a, man, what card was it? Was it execute? When you see an execute, you drop not the drawbridge, but the gate. Once you've seen one execute, so you know he has one left. Things like that. Like, there's some pro strategies to game board stuff. So I thought it was really interesting.
That's cool. Like, I try to count those cards. Like, I count removal cards and stuff like that. But I think it would take a lot of training to teach yourself to look for that as a visual cue to remind yourself. But yeah, that's awesome.
Totally. Yeah. Jared, do you want to give us kind of the last details kind of about the expansion in general, as far as like the pre-purchase? Because we have a pre-purchase now, which they've kind of done in the past, but this one's kind of new.
Yeah, this one's a little bit different because the pre-purchases they've done before have always been for adventure mode. So this one is basically you can get a new card back with it, which is actually a really cool looking card back.
Yep.
But for $49.99, it also comes with 50 packs, which is a discounted rate. So for $50, basically, you get 50 packs in the new card pack, and then this goes on pre-purchase sometime this upcoming week.
So
you can only do that once.
Right.
Yep.
Only you can do it once per account.
Yeah.
Kev, I have to ask you, because you're kind of like, Hearthstone doesn't do like $50 expansion type things. Is this anywhere close to that? I mean, I know it's not the same. You're not getting the box stuff. You're not really getting any digital goodies, but you finally have a $50 set to buy in Hearthstone.
I do. And I mean, I feel like the game has finally gotten to a point where I guess maybe my completionist itch has started to not feel the need to be scratched so bad. Like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to get that card back. But there's enough stuff in the game now that I just recognize, like, I'll never have one of every card. I'm never going to have all the card backs. It's just not possible. So I'm starting to kind of calm down on that a little bit. I love the fact that they're letting you get a discounted rate on bulk card purchases, because that's, for me, ideal, right? Like, I drop all my gold back into card packs, so I don't have a big stockpile for this next expansion. I never will. I want to be able to just spend the money and pick up the cards. And I mean, 50 packs normally would have cost you closer to what, like $70, $80?
Right. Isn't it 60? It's 60 for 40, right? $59.99 for 40. That's US.
Yeah.
So sorry, all of our favorite Swedish listeners. I have no idea what that converts to in fish. Just kidding. Oh no. I might get in trouble for that one.
Oh, you might. But yeah, I think it's cool. The like pre-purchase thing, I'm a little bit leery about right now, just because I feel like there's some details missing. I would want to know like the launch date before I committed to it. And I feel like Blizzard's gonna give us a lot of details about new cards and more stuff before they release the pre-purchase, because right now, out of the 132 cards, you've seen what, 24? And of those 24, you probably haven't seen any of the good ones, right? It was the same way with Goblins versus Gnomes. We didn't see any of the fun stuff till way later into the sort of like pre-release cycle.
Well, it's more the interesting ones, right? That's the one that they want to get out right away, so that you want to get those packs and pre-purchase and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, get Sarad and the random spell mechanics going or whatever.
Yes. Should we talk about cards?
We should.
Shall we? Let's talk about
Absolutely.
cards. All right. Elephant in the room. Not quite, but she's on a huge freaking steed and has an awesome looking, what is that, lance? It's Justicar Trueheart. Justicar Trueheart is a legendary neutral minion. It's 6 mana, and it's 6 attack, 3 health. However, this is an epic battle cry. So, Kev, can you give us the battle cry in your epic voice? Can you do that?
I cannot.
God.
Not today. So sorry. But her battle cry replaces your hero power with a better one, which is unreal.
Kev, you deserve this here. You're getting it. You got booed. So the battle cry is replace your starting hero power with a better one. Now, kind of the first thing we all went to, right, is, well, what does it mean, a better one? So we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of these different hero powers. Kev, do you have them up?
I do, yeah. They're up on the
Awesome.
stream
You
here.
wanna
Everybody
go-
who's watching can see them.
Yeah, you got them up. Good. So, do you want to take the first one for us and kind of explain? Well, let's do the first three. And we'll talk about them kind of one by one.
Sure. So we're just going to go through these here in sort of random order, I guess. The first three we're going to talk about are Druid, Hunter, and Priest. So the Druid hero power changes from Shapeshift to Dire Shapeshift and reads gain 2 armor and 2 attack this turn. The Hunter one becomes Ballista Shot and deals 3 damage instead of 2 to the enemy hero. And the Priest goes from Lesser Heal to Heal, and instead of healing 2, it now heals for 4.
Nice. JR, you want to take the next 3?
Yeah, so the next 3 are Paladin, Warrior, and Warlock. The Paladins is called the Silver Hand, and it changes your hero power to summon 2 1/1 recruits instead of 1. The Warrior is called Tank Up, which gives you 4 armor instead of 2. And the Warlock one, which I think is really cool, is called Soul Tap, and it allows you to draw a card, just like it does now, except you no longer take 2
No
life.
drawback.
Yes, no drawback. It's
Jeez.
awesome. I love that one.
Yeah, insane. And then the last 3 are Rogue, Shaman, and Mage. Rogue, the hero power is equip a 2/2 weapon instead of a 1/2. Totemic Slam is summon a totem of your choice. And then for Mage, it's Fire Blast rank 2. Apparently, they couldn't think of a more creative one. Although in leveling in WoW, like that's what I remember. Because remember when you used to have to rank up
Back
your
in the day.
spells? Like I'm hoping it's just a little nod to that and not just being lazy. I think that's what it is.
I think that's what it is.
Because that's like the first spell you upgrade, right, as a mage? Because you have Fire Blast to start. Yep.
Yeah, it was your only
So,
instant cast, and you had to get new ranks.
And it's a deal 2 damage. These are all for 2 mana, just like normal. It's just upgraded now. So now though, we need to talk about this card a little bit. So Justicar, 6 mana, 6/3. Kev, what are your thoughts? I'm sure you have a bunch of them.
Tons, and I'm going to try to constrain them to a short, sweet little diatribe here. The gist of it is basically they looked to double the effectiveness of all the hero powers. Not all of them are truly doubled. I think there are a couple of classes where this could be a real game changer. Any sort of late game control deck where you use your hero power a lot, it's going to be significant because there's just a ton of value there. But for any class that isn't going to make a ton of late game use of their hero power, I think it's a too weak of a 6-drop. Like it's competing for a space with a ton of very valuable existing cards and likely other new cards that will be just as good, if not better. So your hero power has to have some very powerful interactions, whether that's things with the new Inspire mechanic or ways that you can otherwise get value out of it, then great. But I can only think of 1 class, maybe 2, off the top of my head where I would even consider playing it based on what we have for cards today. There'd have to be new things that would come out to make this attractive in most classes, in my opinion.
Totally. I completely agree in that. And I'm guessing that you're talking about Hunter and Warlock.
No,
Or
God, no.
Mage.
No, the only classes I see it working in are Warrior and Priest.
What?
Okay, so we all disagree on the potency of which ones. Which one do you say, JR?
I think Warlock and Priest.
At least I got one.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just make Priest slower. That sounds great. That's
No,
what
I think Priest, it's going to work very well with Inspire cards. I think you're going to see a really good Inspire Priest, depending on what comes out.
And
So
that's a really
to
good
pop
point.
that and heal yourself up while getting, the Inspire mechanic with it, I think it's going to be pretty good.
I think especially because we've seen some of the cards that use that Inspire mechanic with healing. I think you're right, but I also think we just haven't seen enough cards too to see. They might have just shown the good one right away, and Priest might get the shaft again this year. So who knows? All right, so none of us agree. At least
Color me shocked.
JR and I at least agree on Warlock, but I don't know. I think Hunter would have to fundamentally change versus how it is now. But I mean, in the end, if we get to a more control-y meta, that's 3 damage that bypasses taunt. I mean, that's kind of insane. Just straight to the face. Straight to the face.
And the only way I see it really good in Warrior is, of course, Control Warrior, I guess. It would work very well. Getting that 4 armor, over and over again would be great for Control Warrior, obviously.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, somebody went through and did a rundown of last week's ATLC matches and how many hero power usages there were. Now, obviously, in the current game, hero power usage is obviously going to be lower because there is no Inspire, there is no use your hero power 4 times in a turn. None of that stuff exists yet. But the average deck only uses its hero power in a total game right now between 2 and 3 times.
But I see that changing.
I do too, but I'm just saying, like, that is a significant factor. The decks that do use it, a lot more than that, are things like Control Warrior, Control Priest. But Handlock uses it early, not late, right?
Handlock uses it whenever it can until you can get it down to 15 to 16, that sweet spot. So it's however it takes.
So want the health effect because you're trying to set up Moltens, right? Like oftentimes you want to be able to do that damage to yourself to trigger a cheaper Molten. So, I mean, I don't know. I think there's a lot of classes.
You also want to get more cards in your hand at any given point for Mountain Giants and Twilight Drakes.
I agree, but I think that you want that predominantly in the early game. Like, you'd have to have Justicar Trueheart basically in your opening hand to set that up. Otherwise, like, this is a card where if it's in the last 5 cards in your deck, is it still playable? And that's a test that lots of other 6-drop legendaries pass, right? Sylvanas and Black Knight and stuff are all still playable. This card, honestly, like, I would love to see it in the late game as a Control Warrior because I'd throw it down and start hero powering like crazy. I'd love to see it in Priest because I can sort of bounce back from just fatiguing out my opponent or have my 4-drop trade 1-to-1 with someone else's and just keep it alive forever. It's not going to matter in a lot of other classes if you pull it late. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a ramp card in that sense. If you don't get it in the early game, it's not going to be viable.
I mean, I think it's kind of like Thaurissan, though, too. That doesn't stop it. I mean, you got 5 turns left and you get Thaurissan, then, like, it stymies Patron Warriors time and time again. Things like that. If you get that bad Thaurissan late, or I think there's a lot of cards that we play that do that, but we're all kind of skirting around just saying it. It's like, this is a really cool card and it changes a lot of things, but right now in the current meta, is it playable? And I think right now, for the most part, with the current decks that we have and the current cards that we have and the cards that we've seen, still a little slow. That 3 health is killer. 6 mana is nice if you can keep it. But again, you're really more like you're cycling a card, essentially. You're cycling 6 mana to do it. In a lot of cases, it might as well just be like a 6 mana spell that gets cleared next turn, because that's what it really feels like right now, at least.
It's a super cool threat to be able to drop onto an empty board if you somehow manage to have that opportunity on like a turn 6 or a turn 8 or whatever. I'm really glad it's a battle cry and not a text effect where you'd only have the better hero power while it was on the board, because then it would be actually unplayable. So I think it's cool. I think it's a card that people are going to do a lot of work with to try to make work, especially with all of the other new hero power interactions we're going to see, because this whole expansion really has hero powers as its like core concept. How do we make the hero powers more interesting, more attractive, more relevant, make them something you want to do, not something you do when you don't have anything else left to play on curve. Right.
I agree. Cool. Hey, Kevin, will you do a little role playing with me? So we can do a little Twitter Q&A?
If I have to.
All right. I'm going to ask the question. You give us the answers here. All right? So we went ahead, and for all these cards, what we're going to do is we're going to we've pulled answers from the developers, some of the most common questions being asked. We're seeing a bunch of them in chat as well. So we're going to go ahead and answer those hopefully right away for you guys. So let's go ahead and do it. So, Kevin, does improved hero power persist after Justicar Trueheart dies?
Yes, it does, John. It's a battle cry effect.
All right, cool. Well, will Justicar Trueheart affect non-standard hero powers like Shadowform, Jiraxis, and Ragnaros? I hate the guy who asked this question, by the way. He's a giant jerk.
No, it will not. Justicar Trueheart only affects standard hero powers, and that was me that asked that question. Just so we're clear.
Great question. That was a great question, though. All right. So, what if Justicar Trueheart is golden? Do I get a golden hero power?
You will. If your Justicar Trueheart is golden, the golden hero power will, or your new hero power will be golden.
What if my hero power is already golden, but my Justicar is normal?
Same thing. As a golden class, you still get a golden hero power.
All right, fair enough. Now, if you change your hero power with like Justicar Trueheart, Shadow Form, Jiraxis, does the cost reduction for like Frost Giant say? Now, before you answer, Frost Giant is basically, it's another giant. It's a 10 mana, 8/8 with the read that it says Inspire basically costs one less for each time you use your hero power. So if I change my hero power with Justicar Trueheart, Shadowform, Jiraxis, does the cost reduction for Frost Giant stay?
And yes, it does. Frost Giant tracks against every hero power usage from the start of the game until you play it.
Cool. All right. We got one more. When you're in Shadow Form and play Justicar Trueheart, do you switch to a 4-heal hero power or stay in Shadow Form?
You stay in Shadow Form because Justicar Trueheart only interacts with the 9 standard hero powers. It will not take effect if you have anything else modifying your hero power, including Shadow Form.
Cool. So hopefully that answers your main questions about Justicar. There's a lot of questions about it, right? And there's still more and more coming in. We're probably going to spend more time on that card than any of the other ones because it's huge. We haven't seen anything like it yet. So let's go ahead then and jump into this next card here. Nexus Champion Sarad. He is a 5-mana neutral legendary minion. 4 attack, 5 health, with card text that reads, Inspire. Add a random spell to your hand. Now, before we go in, we didn't talk about this yet. We were waiting so we could get a card example up here. But Inspire is a new card text. So, JR, can you give us a rundown kind of what Inspire is and what we should expect it to do?
Yeah, so the new mechanic of Inspire is basically it's something that interacts with your hero power. So every time, if it's on the board or maybe in your hand or something that has Inspire, it means that when you use your hero power, something happens with that card. For example, it can give a plus to attack. For example, with Frost Giant in your hand, it becomes cheaper every time you use your hero power. And just various things like that. It's a mechanic that is affected, changes something on the card based on how many times you have used your hero power, basically.
So I think the example that they used at the event was a new card called Lowly Squire. Lowly Squire is a 1-mana 1/2 that reads Inspire, gain +1 attack. That means every time you use your hero power, the Lowly Squire then becomes a 2/2. If you use it again, it's a 3/2. If you use it again, it's a 4/2, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, he's basically an Undertaker, but instead of Death Rattle, it's when you use your hero power.
Right. So I think this is a really cool mechanic, but I also think it's a little counterintuitive to how we play the game currently, right? Right now in Hearthstone, hero powers are kind of like fillers, as if you have the extra mana to play it, minus handlock, I guess, in the beginning turns. But most of the time, it feels pretty bad to use your hero power. Most of us would choose not to use it on turn 2 in place of a 2-drop. It's relatively weak overall, like a 1-mana or a 2-mana 1/1 Silverhand Recruit, right? Like that doesn't feel great at all. There's no card text to it, things like that. So it means that we're going to be taking advantage of our mana in a different way if this is going to work. So I think it's really interesting. I think there's some promise with it, but it feels definitely kind of weird, especially to the Hearthstone that we're used to. Kev, do you have any thoughts?
Well, the one thing I like about it is most of the mechanics right now are card specific, right? So you have a card that only interacts with Death Rattle, or only interacts with Divine Shield, or only interacts with Charge, right? And those mechanics are sort of self-contained. You very rarely do something that, like, for example, you don't get to have a board full of Death Rattle minions and play something that gives all of your Death Rattle minions +1 attack or something. Inspire is going to be the first example of something where if you can get some sticky stuff on the board and have a bunch of things that are now all triggered by Inspire, using your hero power, like you said, is generally not a tempo positive play, but it might be if it's going to buff 3 or 4 or 5 minions, right? There's all these things. We'll go into some of them later, but like one of the cards I'm kind of excited for is Kodo Rider. It's going to be a card that when you inspire, it duplicates. Well, it doesn't duplicate. It creates another like 3/5 minion. That's something where all of a sudden, if that minion isn't getting cleared every turn, you're continuing to get additional value for it in this sort of Patron Warrior-esque style, but it may not be the only thing on the board with Inspire. If you have 2 or 3 or 4 minions out with Inspire, hitting that hero power now is a massive positive tempo play for the first time in the game. And that's super cool because you're going to use your hero power at some point, and all you have to do is sort of calculate where that breakpoint is. Is using my hero power now more efficient than playing an on-curve 2-drop or throwing down a 2-cost spell? And I think that the game is going to sort of facilitate that. There's going to be cards that make that happen.
Absolutely. JR, any last thoughts?
No, I pretty much agree. I think we're going to see decks that I think we're going to see some new decks that'll be centered around this mechanic, and that's one of the things I think is really cool about having a new mechanic like this. Is you're going to see not lots of, but you're going to see people that are going to at first try to use this new mechanic in existing decks, and then try and build new decks around this mechanic, and then eventually come to a happy medium on. We'll probably have 2 or 3 decks that'll be in the meta, possibly one that will be top tier that'll be using this mechanic. So
totally.
And it is the first new mechanic in the game since it was in its closed alpha. Like, they've never added a new keyword like this since the game came out. So this is a big shift. It's going to drastically alter the way that we play the game.
Are you guys going to try to make an Inspire deck when it starts out, or are you going to just wait for the internet to figure it out?
I'll play with it. I'll play around with it for sure, because I think it's a really cool mechanic, and I want to see what it can do. I won't make the top tier deck. Someone else will figure that out, but I'll play around with it.
I'll mess with it probably in classes where I don't have sort of a good existing archetype, right? Like, I love my Control Warrior. I'll try to drop new cards into the existing Control Warrior archetype out of the Grand Tournament set. But for a class like Mage or Rogue, where I don't play them very much right now, Rogue especially to me seems like a class that could really benefit from Inspire, because you're using your hero power constantly. You're always trying to refresh that dagger, be ready to apply a poison or a Tinker's Sharp Sword Oil or something to it. You always want 2 charges on your weapon. And in the early game as Rogue, you hero power all the time, just all the time. And you're going to use that hero power because of all the cards you have that interact with it in the core existing Rogue set already. Poisons and Blade Flurries and all these things that you have to use your hero power to set up in the first place. Now you also get to add Inspire and a bunch of other things that play with that. I think that's going to be a really awesome opportunity to try something new that isn't just, Miracle Rogue or, I kind of feel like Oil Rogue was just the new, slower Miracle Rogue in a lot of ways. It sort of played to the same basic goal. This is a real chance for a whole lot of classes to have a totally new way of playing. Shaman is another one that I think will have a lot of kind of just brand new stuff they can do. Not everybody's trying to slap different cards into mid-range.
Totally. Absolutely. So let's go back to Nexus Champion Sarad then. Now that we've explained Inspire, again, 5 mana, neutral legendary, 4 attack, 5 health. Inspire, add a random spell to your hand. So take the card text away for a second. 5 mana, 4/5, right? Not horrible, not the weakest 5-drop we've ever seen, but it's a 5 mana Yeti, right? So Inspire, add a random spell to your hand. So now it kind of becomes a 7 mana 4/5 before you get any value beyond a Yeti. So I got a question. You guys think that, first of all, Energy Camel, love it. So cool. Energy Camel. This is maybe my favorite card art I think I've seen yet in the game. So far, that's my favorite. But let's talk about it a little bit. Kev, what are your thoughts?
I don't see it getting played. I don't see it getting played at all.
That's fair. JR?
I see it getting played.
Okay.
No, because it reminds me a little bit of oh man, I'm blanking on the new card that came out in the last adventure mode. Nefarian.
Nefarian.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of him, but on a cheaper scale and being able to get possibly some good cards. I'm hoping they'll be kind of, because Nefarian feels like it's a little weighted to get you the good cards, and I feel like this one will probably be 2. I think you're going to end up getting some pretty good spells out of this guy, and possibly get what you need at certain points of time with this guy. So I can see him hopefully get at least, you'll get at least one spell from him. Hopefully you can keep him alive and get a couple more, be able to get some of those cards that allow you to use your hero power multiple times in a turn. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think, JR, I'm on the same kind of thinking with you. So, Kev, if it's like piloted Shredder, where it's like truly random, like there's, whatever, how many 2 drops, and it's just literally pick one out of the hat, totally unplayable. Completely agree. But if it's the next Unstable Portal or Nefarian, where they're very clear, like I pull out, 50-50, or what's the other one? Bane of Doom. Those cards that always just get you these OP ones, even though they're random.
Well,
random.
Okay, they are random, right? Bane of Doom works that way because statistically, it's going to be a net positive, right? There are more things that are better out of the demon's set for you cost-wise than there are not, right? Unstable Portal can draw like an angry chicken. You remember the times that you draw legendaries, you don't remember the times that you get like a Bloodfen Raptor or whatever, right?
They did something on they did an experiment, I guess, on Unstable Portal, and it pulled out like 3 times as many legendaries as there actually are percentage wise in the game, over like it was like some like 600 portals. So I mean, not a huge
that's not
side,
statistically significant,
but it's enough. I mean, that's gonna be 600.
It's the kind of card where I think it's fundamentally not going to play well to most decks, because you're not actually going to, like, this can't ever be your win condition. It's just hero power and pray for spells, right? So you would run it in an Inspire heavy deck as kind of like I'm going to play Inspire anyways. I'm going to hit my hero power. I may as well throw this down and see if I get lucky, which has just never been how I play the game, right? I will every time choose the more consistent card if I get a choice. If this was something where I could Inspire and it would draw me a random card from my own class set of spells, kind of like Lock and Load works for Hunter, then sure, I would probably consider it, because at least I could control the variables of what it interacted with. But the way it's written now, I'm going to be playing, Druid and get Deadly Poison, or Rogue and get Shield Slam. Like, it's the times that it works out are not going to outweigh the times that it doesn't, for me, on a statistical basis.
But the same thing was said about Nefarian, and I've found him, like, when you play him, it's worked out extremely well. Hardly ever have I seen a card that I got that I didn't like that wasn't good, or that I couldn't use. I think,
but it's possible, right? So you've had good experiences with it. It's worked for you. You're willing to take that risk. I am not. As a player for 9 mana, I'm going to drop Ysera and control the fact that I know I'm going to get something from a set pool of cards. That to me is better.
But
and
Unstable
the high
Portal
variance doesn't work for me. Like, I know it works for a lot of people. Unstable Portal's a great example. I'm not. I don't like it. I don't like it as a card.
It's a card that, like, if you play Mage, you almost always. Not always, but almost always, Unstable Portal is, a main staple in Mage decks now. Even though it's completely random, it's still, you get something that is potentially good, and you're going to get, it's a 2-for-1. You get a 4/5 on the board, and you get to use your hero power, and you get an additional spell.
Well, I mean, maybe, right? Like at 5 mana, it competes with a lot of very powerful cards. It isn't like Justicar Trueheart that we just finished discussing, where it has a permanent game impact. It's going to get removed, right? It's going to vanish. And so you're going to get to draw, if you play it on 7 or later, you're going to get to draw 1 spell guaranteed. If you're lucky, maybe 2 or 3, right? And you have to have enough mana to use your hero power every turn. So you're never going to play on curve again, ever. You drop him on 7, you're doing that and hero powering to get a spell instead of playing Dr. Boom. That's a tough call to make.
I would play Dr. Boom before I would play him if I had both of them in my hand.
Okay, so
but if I had him without Dr. Boom in my hand, I would play him.
John.
So Kevin, I love your thought, especially on the 7. Now, in my opinion, this is a turn 5 play to bait out some removal, number 1. Because if it survives, it can be very impactful on the game, right? So it's an immediately remove. The question is, do you lose too much tempo on turn 5? Because I think that's when you drop this. I think you want it on turn 5. Or you want it kind of, if you're, in the second half of your deck, when you're just trying to reach for anything of significance, if you're running low on cards. So, with that, like, I think, to the point, on turn 5, it has to be removed. If it doesn't, you get a free spell and arguably something that you can play the next turn. If you can hero power, but you're still right. Well, what about 6? That means I don't use Sylvanas, and 7.
Right.
So it kind of depends on what your curve looks like. So you guys are both right. I mean,
it speaks.
No one's wrong here.
Yeah, it speaks to what I said earlier about Inspire. This would be the kind of thing where if I'm running an Inspire heavy deck and I've managed to stick 2 or 3 things on the board that have Inspire, and then I can throw down Surratt and hero power, that's a crazy powerful play. But it's a super combo heavy style of play. Like, you have to get sticky minions on the board and keep them there with Inspire. You have to get multiple things on the board that have Inspire. All of that is very challenging, and to me it sort of feels like this would be it's like a trap, right? It's like a win more Inspire card that will only work under certain conditions. On a regular basis, I would choose to play something else on 5 in most classes. Like, what class are you going to run this in? Out of what we've seen so far, there's not a ton of Inspire cards yet, but what class would you play it in? What class are you going to use your hero power a ton?
I would not play this card, probably. But if I
wouldn't play it in the current meta, but depending on what is going to get revealed in the rest of the set, I'm sure that there's a place for it.
I think there could be some interesting plays with like Tempo Mage, Flame Wakers, things like that. Maybe, again,
maybe.
I'm no Strife Crow. I won't sit down and figure that out. I'll wait for someone else to do it. But, you're exactly right. And especially right now, completely, in my opinion, not playable. But if you get enough good 2, 3, 4 mana minions that utilize Inspire and you're able to use that one as well, you might have a really powerful card. You might. So
yeah, and there might be a place down the road where you're able to get an Inspire themed deck working that does that, or a deck that really capitalizes on bulk spells, right? Like, if you played this and a Gadgetzan Auctioneer and some of the other stuff that interacts with having multiple spells, maybe there's a place for that. Maybe, like you said, like using Flame Waker or anything else that just triggers based on spell casts. There's probably a way that you could make some kind of cool combo-y things happen, but right now it looks like it would be a huge tempo loss to do it.
Yeah. It'll be a great brawl. It'll be a great brawl card.
I like what B-Dog52 said in the chat. I would play it in Priest just to be more annoying.
It's true.
That's true.
Well, you're already playing Priest, so
yeah, you made that choice. Apologize.
So, one last thing to add here before we go on to the next card, because we're actually seeing it being talked about as well. Nexus Champion Surratt only grants you collectible spells, so no bananas, Ysera spells, ETC, Elite Tauren, Chieftain spells, things like that. So only ones that you yourself can put into a deck. If it can't take up a deck slot or a card slot in your deck, it cannot be pulled from from Nexus Champion Sarad. And to your point, Kevin, some of those more OP spells, because, I mean, let's be honest, like if you can get a Ysera card, that could be huge, are out there. So it might just be a little bit more random, and it might, work like Shredder, but with a negative variance. And in that case, it very well could be trash. So, all right, let's go on to the next one, because this one's really cool as well. We can't spend too much time on the other ones, but let's go ahead. So Wilfred Fizzlebang, he is but he is a 6-mana warlock legendary, 4 attack, 4 health, which reads, cards you draw from your hero power cost 0. So this one is really cool. Really, Wilfred Fizzlebang. Does anyone else want a Jiraxis interaction on this one?
If there isn't, I'm going to be so disappointed. I mean, I'm sure there is. I'm sure they've thought that far ahead, right? Like, this is on the level of like the Karen Garrosh, only way cooler.
Totally. So I think this is a really cool card. I'm really excited for this card. What do you guys think, though? Is it playable? Will it be played? JR, I'll let you take this one first.
I think I think warlocks, anyway, with using, their hero power, or if they've already used the Justicar, things like that, where they are constantly drawing cards, it's going to be really good for kind of a late game on trying to get some, free spells, especially if you already have a pretty full hand on some other things. If you're playing like Handlock and, heck, especially if you're like still at high life and you want to get like a 0 cast cost Molten Giant or something like that, would be pretty sweet. Or a 0 casting cost, even a 0 casting cost Jiraxis would be awesome. So I think it would be I could see it getting played. I don't see it, and I think this really gives Warlock a 3rd legendary that is actually playable, which I think is the most in any class right now.
Yeah, and before we get into it, Ben Brode has confirmed there are new legendaries for every class. So every class is getting a new legendary in this set.
Perfect.
Right.
I didn't know if it was just one, though, some could have multiples.
I would guess just one, just based on raw card count. There'd be no way for there to be more than that without the set being more top heavy than it already is.
Cool.
That and they always try to keep the classes balanced. So if one class gets a legendary, every other class is going to. If they would get 2, then every class would get 2, etc.
Cool.
Right.
And just so we get this out of the way right away. Do cards drawn with hero power when Wilfred is in play still cost 0 after he dies? The answer is yes. So if you draw the 0 mana Jiraxis, Wilfred dies, he still is a 0 mana Jiraxis. So, yes. Really cool card. Do you think, though, 6 mana, is it too weak?
I mean, no, right? Like, this is the same cost and stat block as a Gadgetzan Auctioneer, which is still, I mean, it's not as good as it used to be, but it's still a good card, fundamentally. It still serves a powerful purpose in lots of deck archetypes. I see this being the kind of thing that would work out really well in some of the crazy late game Warlock, Handlock, Mallylock, that sort of stuff. There's a place for it, and I think it will have a crazy impact. And like we've said about lots of the other cards, has to be removed, right? This is more powerful, I think, in terms of raw benefit in play than Thaurissan to a Warlock, because cheapening everything by 1 is great when you got a big mitt full of cards, but being able to drop Wilfred, hit your hero power, and get something really like this is better than Justicar Trueheart for a Warlock by a mile as a 6-drop. Way better.
Yeah.
And it's going to be...
So, I mean, think about the ideal. So turn 8, right? So you drop Wilfred, you hero power, so you have a 4/4 on board, and hopefully you draw a good card to give you some more tempo. Like, that's the scary part, right? Is do you draw something that can keep your board presence going on at least turn 8 and beyond?
Well, the thing to bear in mind, right? Because I think this is something that people really maybe didn't think about when we first started is like, let's say that you hold Wilfred until the late game, right? He's part of your sort of finisher, and you drop him and a Garrison Commander, which is the new 2-drop that lets you use your hero power twice, and you slap your hero power. Maybe you've found a way to cheapen the cost and you could slap your hero power a couple times, whatever, right? What you draw is 0 cost and can be played immediately. So on turn 8, you're not just getting Wilfred and a use of your hero power, you're getting Wilfred hero power and whatever you drew. Now, if that's a free Mal'Ganis or a free Jiraxis or a free Doomguard or whatever, like, that's crazy. Basically, almost anything you draw for nothing is going to have board impact. Being able to play any minion for 0 is crazy.
So what you're looking for is Wilfred, double Maiden of the Lake, and then what's the one that lets you...
No, you only need one Maiden of the Lake.
Isn't there one that lets you do your spell power or your hero power infinite times per turn? Or
that's a mage.
That's the
one.
Koldara Drake. Yeah, you'd have to steal it.
Oh, that's right. It's mage. So you unstable. No, you can't unstable. You steal from Sarad an unstable portal, which gives you a Koldara Drake, and infinite card tapping and winning. So
well, there's just lots of things now that interact with card draw, right? Like somebody in chat actually pointed out. Imagine if you were able to stick Chromagus and then play this. You could draw something and get 2. I don't know if the Chromagus card would be free. Actually, that's maybe one of those questions we'd have to go back to the community managers with and find out. But that's crazy. Like, there's a lot of things that interact with your hero power as a warlock with draw that would be nuts.
So we do know that this has been confirmed. I just didn't get it in the notes. If you draw Chromagus or you have Chromagus, the one card that's drawn, like the first one, is
free.
Free. The one that's drawn by Chromagus is full cost.
Is regular cost. Okay.
So
well, even still, I mean, that might let you get 2 Mal'Ganis as one that's free. Like, that's, you would have to kind of cater your deck to it a little bit and want more big drops, more cards that are higher cost, but things like Handlock already do that. So
right.
I don't play Handlock well. I know you guys both play Handlock a lot better than I do. Is there room for a card like this in a modified Handlock?
I would have said no until this last week when we saw like this new demon Handlock, show up, which is now number 2 on the Tempo Storm rankings, which is really insane to say that there is still room for innovation in Handlock if something's powerful enough. If you had asked me last week, I would have said, I don't think so. I think it's too refined of a deck. It feels Handlock right now feels like mid-range Druid, and that's actually not the case. I'd be very wrong. So yes, I do think there is room in Handlock, in Warlock in general, these decks to make a card like this work. The question is there room for, to make this card work? Maybe 3 or 4 other cards need to be in there. So is there 8 slots? I don't know. That one, they don't pay me enough.
Fair enough. Okay.
My dream, though, is to use this with the Nexus Champion Sarad and get your free card either be Mind Control or Pyroblast. That would be sweet.
Oh, got it. Yes. Nice. Totally.
I don't know. That wouldn't work. Never mind.
No, because the spells that were generated by Sarad wouldn't be free. Yeah.
Same thing as.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Dang it.
But again, right, there's all these
shut down.
It just creates a ton of combos. There's so many new combos that we haven't even accounted for yet. Like, that's, most decks now are going to be able to build a full hand without drawing cards. They're going to be able to add cards to their hand very efficiently, which is crazy.
Right. Speaking of combos, let's talk about the new Hunter card, shall we?
Yeah, okay.
So, Lock and Load. It's a 2-mana Hunter spell that reads, it's epic, by the way. Nice little purple crystal. And JR's portrait, whenever he sees Face Hunter in the middle, says, each time you cast a spell this turn, add a random Hunter card to your hand. When we saw this at the event, it was awesome. Now, given everything was designed around these, these decks were designed around these cards, but this was really cool. So, Kevin, Miracle Hunter, is it a thing? Go.
Probably not.
Just talk about Lock and Load.
it's going to be really powerful. It's going to allow you to do a lot, and it's going to move the needle a little bit on Hunter away from being as minion heavy as it is. Because in most of the Hunter decks, if I were to go through just off the top of my head, like mid-range Hunter right now, you're hoping to draw your traps using Mad Scientist because that's a tempo play. So you're left with the only spells you're casting are Quick Shot, Kill Command, maybe one Hunter's Mark.
No, Animal Companion.
But okay,
Unleash the Hounds.
But you want to play a lot of those cards. Like Animal Companion is a card you desperately want to play on curve, right? So I think this would be a really great card that actually sets up a more control style Hunter where you bring back Explosive Shot. You bring back some of that stuff that works really well and has a ton of power, but isn't as minion driven. Because right now, a lot of the good synergy in Hunter is minion and beast driven.
Cool. This is a really cool card. I'm really excited about it. One quick question about it. If you do a double lock and load, do you get double the spells? The answer is yes. So that could be kind of cool.
Lock and load into lock and load is crazy.
Yeah. So this could be really exciting. My brain can't even wrap around the potential combos that this might have, but I'm really excited to try this out. This is one of my favorite cards. I think could actually work and be competitive, despite us really having no real reality or grasp of a card like this.
This is what I wanted from Sirad when we were talking about that earlier, right? More Hunter stuff that synergizes with my existing deck. I'm going to play this and Feign Death and a bunch of stuff in a really control style Hunter deck that uses more removal, brings back Deadly Shot, brings back Explosive Shot, brings back Cobra Shot. Like, you've got all these options that could actually open up a ton of crazy spell driven Hunter. And there were a couple of weird lists that circulated. The guy who piloted the almost all spell removal Hunter to Legend at one point, and it ran all of that stuff. This facilitates an incredible synergy because it's a random Hunter card, not just a Hunter spell.
Right.
So you could very simply be drawing a bunch of cool beasts, pull a Savannah Hymen that you didn't have otherwise, or it could be more spells. If you draw a Hunter's Mark and you can just chain gun it together, it's not Miracle Hunter, but it opens a ton of opportunities up to build something very unique that runs more spells, even maybe spell power. I think there's a whole new archetype we've never seen that could work with this card. Absolutely.
This is a really cool card. Let's go into the last amount that we're going to chat about here. And it's Shaman kind of in general. We've got some insane Shaman cards here. And because JR, I know you're the one who are really excited about it, go ahead and kind of break down your thoughts, why you wanted to kind of talk about the Shaman cards. So the first one we have is a Totem Golem. It's a 2-mana, 3/4, and it's a totem. So this is kind of cool. And it reads just Overload 1. So it's a 2-mana, 3/4. Essentially lets you exchange your turn 3. Basically, you switch your turn 2 and turn 3, right? Let's talk about this one first.
It's going to be the best 2-drop in the game. Basically, in my opinion. I mean, a 3/4 for 2 mana. Yeah, sure, you don't get to use that extra mana next turn, but at that point, I mean, you can use. It doesn't matter. 3/4 is going to be rough to deal with, even on, especially if you get a coin. Turn 1 drop.
No existing 3-drop removes it.
Right, and there's no good. I mean, Shaman's really weak on 2, right?
Yeah,
there's hardly anything to really throw it on 2 except for oh my gosh,
Hero Power.
Hero Power is it 3 mana for the Direwolves?
Yes, Feral Spirit is 3.
Feral Spirit.
Mech Shaman plays Whirling Zap-O-Matic on 2, but
dies right away. Great backstab target.
Yeah.
So I mean, in the end, whether you play a totem on 2 or a totem on 3 doesn't really matter. But this lets you get huge tempo. Great anti-aggro card. Yeah, insane card. Let's go ahead and take this next one then, the Justicar Totemic. JR?
Yeah, so that's a 3 mana. It's a 3 attack, 2 health, and it has a battle cry on it. Summon any random totem. And this doesn't mean just the totems that you can cast with your hero power, I believe. It's totems in the game, like your flame totem, or not the flame totem, the 0/3 totem that gives adjacent
you could get Mana Tide,
minions.
Flame
Yeah.
Tongue. You could get the new Totem Golem that we just went over. All of those are eligible.
Yep.
Totally.
Yep.
Cool. And then the Draenei Totem Carver, 4 mana, 4/4, vanilla test, done. Battle Cry, gain +1/+1 for each friendly totem. All of a sudden, again, making your totems much more powerful and kind of become like Silverhand Silverhand recruits, right? Where they used to be nothing, and then with muster for battle and oh my gosh, you know I'm horrible with cards. 5 mana, 2/5. Quartermaster. You guys are the best. Quartermaster, you know, all of a sudden you have to get rid of those Silverhand recruits every time, right?
Yeah.
So really cool. Any more thoughts on this one? Nah.
Not to speak of. I mean, it opens up a very cool curve where you need something for a competitive 1-drop, but you could curve into Hero Power, Tuskar Totemic, Draenei Totem Carver. It's a whole new kind of style, little bit more aggressive as far as how you're going to play out Shaman, because right now your curve choices have always been driven by neutral minions or by overload, which has been a real problem, right? You could get really great value on lots of different turns curve-wise in Shaman, but at the expense of a future turn with overload, right? You throw down a Fireguard Destroyer, that's the best 4-drop in the game, but I think Totem Carver is actually the better play now in a lot of cases if you build your deck to it.
How much does Frostwolf Warlord cost?
5.
Is it 5? Because
Yeah.
I mean, it's essentially
It's
the
a
same
5-drop
thing, but it's only with
4/4.
totem, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting how they did that. And then last but not least, the 5 mana, 3 attack, 6 health, Thunder Bluff Valiant. His reads, Inspire, give your totems +2 attack. Kind of insane, kind of cool, a little dangerous. But I mean, a 5 mana, 3/6, that isn't bad. I mean, that's not poorly costed by any means. So what do you guys think about this card?
It kills Justicar Trueheart.
It's an even trade. You're right.
Even trade. I mean, I think it's going to really make totems a much more significant thing than they are now, right? There's just enough totems now between Flame Tongue, Mana Tide. We missed Vitality earlier, the Totem Golem, and then all of the standard totems. That's just enough things that you're now going to be able to sort of have an aggressive board. And instead of being forced into something like Bloodlust, which was always seen as kind of a win more card that wasn't super playable, the Thunderbluff Valiant Inspire is also a permanent effect, right? So you have to play it kind of late. You can't use it early, but you're going to hit 5, throw down this thing. When you hero power, it's going to add a new totem. And then I'm not clear on the interaction in terms of timing. If the Inspire effect would apply to the new totem you summoned with your hero power, my guess is no, because you would get the Inspire buff and then.
So the hero power is first, and then the Inspire effect.
Really?
That's straight from straight
Wow.
from Worthen. So
okay, so that's super powerful then.
Yes.
Like, this is something that's going to be, you're now forced to remove every totem. You're forced to board clear against Shaman, which used to be a total non-issue. Like, if you leave a Wrath of Air totem up, who cares? And now, no, like, that's a serious threat, because every turn now it's, attacks for 2, attacks for 4, attacks for 6. You're just going to overwhelm them with nothing but this card in your hero power.
Yeah.
And the main reason I wanted to talk about these Shaman cards is because of how great they're making totems now, and they're going to make the Shaman hero power actually relevant, because I didn't feel it was before. And that's one of the complaints that I think we had on one of the PvPs a while back, is the Shaman hero power needed help in a big way, maybe with being able to not be random, maybe being able to allow you to choose your totem, which now Justicar Trueheart allows you to do. But this allows you to do more things with your totems and make your totems more powerful, which I think is what Shaman really, really needed. And that's why I think these cards are awesome.
Yeah. Something really cool too. So we have we talked earlier about Justicar Trueheart. And we also know, so the kind of the updated hero power for Justicar Trueheart is Totemic Slam, which lets you choose any one of the 4 basic hero powers, or any of the 4 basic totems. So you can have duplicates of those up. So you can like throw a taunt totem down every time, or try to go spell power every time and get some big nasty spells. So this is really insane. Potentially the synergy that is definitely there. The question just, is it playable? Yeah. Any last thoughts on these Shaman cards, guys?
I'm excited. I think Shaman needed something really unique, and I think this opens a lot of doors. It takes old cards that weren't playable, dumb stuff like Totemic Might, and says, actually, you know what? Maybe there's a place for that. Maybe there's a combo. It's still going to feel very tough to pull off. You're going to need good curve. You're going to need a lot of things in hand to make a totem-driven Shaman work with what we've seen right now. But my guess is we're not finished. Like, my guess is there's going to be more things yet that will give Shaman the ability to build a very aggressive board. Because throwing down a totem with the Shaman hero power has always been one of the stronger hero powers. The random factor hurts you, but they're tougher to remove than most things. You can't kill them with the mage hero power or the paladin hero power or the druid hero power, or any of the hero powers. So now sticky Shaman boards full of things that can be buffed by the new Thunderbluff Valiant and Bloodlusts and stuff. Like, it's going to be really scary. You're going to need board wipes against Shaman, which has never been a problem before.
Cool. All right, guys. That's going to wrap up this first week of card talk, at least for TGT or the Grand Tournament. I can't decide what I want to call it yet, so we'll need to work on that a little bit. But we decided this week, rather than to try to go through 24 cards or even half of them, to take kind of the 5 to 6 most impactful topics that we could, so we can break them down in bulk. And we'll bring you more cards every week, of course. So that's going to wrap that piece up. We are actually going to kind of skip over the meta this week. Honestly, there's not a whole lot. We're going to talk about a few things. We're going to go in and close out the show here. So let's go ahead and do it.
It's been Grim Patron anyway. So
yeah. So number 1, Grim Patron. Number 2, second place. Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. Basically, nothing's really changed. Tempo Storm has a new version of Handlock with Void Callers and Doomguard at number 2. Really cool. Again, we're talking about innovation in Handlock, and in well-solidified decks. Is there room? There is. And it's doing very well, so much so that it goes all the way up to number 2, which is really cool. Another interesting one, Kev, I know you love this. Mech Shaman up 9 spots. That's kind of cool to see. I think on this show, we're secretly all fans of Mech Shaman and want it to do well. So, except for JR. Except
for JR. When we talked about aggro decks a while back, I said it was my favorite aggro deck. It was the one I recommended for going laddering with when we were talking about that. And it's cool because this is actually an import deck from the Korean server, because they took a lot of the old Mech Shaman that people had tried to make work from the tournament scene, because the big tournament deck used Fel Reaver, which could backfire catastrophically. That was the phone tap deck list that we saw him win with. And it chooses to be a little safer. It brings back Fireguard Destroyer, uses an extra Doom Hammer, super consistent, brings back Leroy, which hasn't been played in I don't know what kind of decks in how long. Just awesome to see that the meta from all the different regions is still relevant here, because we've seen that happen with some Chinese decks coming over. Now there's Korean Mech Shaman coming over. I think that's awesome.
Kevin knows why I don't like it, because right after Tempo Storm released this, I was playing a game, and the very first game he decided to go spectate me playing. I got destroyed by this deck.
Manhandled by Mech Shaman. Yeah.
So
yikes.
It was terrible.
Nice.
That deck is so good right now, though. So
it is.
It's in a crazy good place. It's just super hard to counter, because the only way to beat it really is sheer luck or a faster aggro deck, which upsets the meta in a big way.
Totally. Cool. That's the meta, guys. There you go. You're only going to hear it twice more, and then the meta talk is going to be like, we don't know anymore. It's going to change.
So, like we said earlier, if you've ever been thinking about making a push while there's a well-understood meta right now, this is the last time probably until 3-4 months from now, where the meta will be this solidified, this understood. Take advantage of it, play it, use the decks that you know, go hard on the ladder, because next month, all bets are off.
All bets are off. You got it. All right, guys. Normally we go into emails at this time of the show, but we've had so much content and so many emails and things to go through that we're just not going to be able to get to it this week. But as always, thank you for your email. We had a bunch this week and great ones. We will do our best to get to them at some time, whether it's on the show or through a YouTube video or something like that. We really love your emails and want you guys to keep sending them in. So then let's go ahead and let's jump into our new patrons this week. Kev, you got that list for us?
I do. So we mentioned the Patreon earlier. A lot of you guys have been supporting it. It's very close to hitting our next milestone, which is the merchandise shop, which we're very excited about. It's going to be a lot of fun. So some new people chose to support the show this week, and we appreciate you guys a ton. To Paul M., Ben R., Yap Wenjun, The Real Ben, and Pedro. Thank you guys so much. Every dollar is going back to putting more money into the show, better production, more equipment, letting us attend events so that we can bring you some interviews, live content, all kinds of stuff. Like it's just awesome what kinds of doors this is opening for the show, and it's only because you guys have chosen to support it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So thank you guys again. You guys rock. What about our iTunes reviews? Actually, you know what? This is a historic day. We've never had this many iTunes reviews before. We had 10. 10 reviews from 4 different countries. That is so insane. JR, you got the list there?
Yeah, so in the USA, we had S-Straub, Ghost Agent K, Stitchin, Multizord, Insidious 469, Zambezi Zinger, and Zero Divide 75. From Sweden, we had Ruben Luthman. From Switzerland, we had
that was the hard one for you to read.
Yeah, Switzerland we had Kazu, and UK we had The Real Ben. So those are,
and we are so thankful for that.
Yes, you guys are the absolute best. So then let's go ahead. Let's, Kev, do you have any shout outs, things you're up to this next week? Because we're not going to get to see you for the next 2. So we would definitely want to hear.
Yeah, you know what? It may actually be the next 3. So spoiler alert, I don't know yet, but there's a non-zero chance that I'm actually going to be attending Gamescom live and would be there to get the hands-on experience with the Grand Tournament and all the other Blizzard news. It's not a for sure thing yet. I'm waiting to find out. But if that dream comes true, I'm going to be in Germany the following week, which would be totally surreal. Big shout outs, I guess, this week to everybody who showed up to the stream. We had over 100 viewers at one point, which was unbelievable. You guys are awesome.
Insane.
I'm so thankful. I hope we did a good job trying to interact with you guys, keep you up to speed on all the good stuff happening with Hearthstone. If you're not doing anything after the show, you can stick around and hang out with these guys, or you can jump over to twitch.tv/OdinTV, Odin with 2 N's. I'm actually going to be hosting the semifinals and finals of a little Hearthstone tournament. So as soon as we're done here, I'm on my way to go do that.
Awesome. What about you, JR?
Man, I want to give a shout out to the awesome people in the chat room as well. Just because this has been crazy with how many people are here, how many questions they've been asking, and hopefully we get to answer them here after the show. But also, I check out twitch.tv/BlizzPro where you're watching this, or if you're listening on iTunes, go there. Next Saturday, I'm going to be doing a 24-hour live stream for charity for a BlizzPro team member of ours by the name of Tim, who needs to have heart surgery, and we need to help. We're gonna help raise some money for him to help make that happen. So if you want to come by next week for 24 hours to hang out with me, it'll be interesting. I'm sure after about hour 12 or 14, I'm gonna get really dumb. So it'll be good times.
Nice, cool. Well, as for me, as always, thank you to the chat room. Thanks to Adriac, our lone link moderator back there, getting all the links out. He's doing awesome. Thank you so much. He's also my brother, so could have done better, bro. Could have been the older
Shots
one.
fired.
Also, shout out to Jake Butno, who does our awesome music at the beginning and end and during. He's incredible. He's an incredible musician. You need to go check out his website at jakebutno.ca. You'll find that in the show notes as well. Dude's awesome. He's also a fan of the show. He actually listens, which is something that we're really excited about.
And super active on Twitter. Like, he's always chatting with us about the show, sticking around. He's a great guy. Super thankful to have him with us.
Also, a huge thank you to Dread Scythe, who has made this stream possible. Like, I think I did pretty good pushing the buttons this week, but it was Dread Scythe who made everything look good so that we could do it. So thank you to his. You can find his website as well. Is it Dread Scythe Designs? Scythe Designs? I forget, dude. I forgot 2 weeks in a row. I'm sorry. We'll put it in the show notes, though. I'm the worst at this. Yeah. So as always, you can find us at our Patreon at patreon.com/wellmedpodcast. You can find us on Twitter at wellmedpodcast. You can find this show later on YouTube at youtube.com/blizzpro. And of course, you can listen to us at all your major podcast outlets. That's it for us this week, guys. This has been episode 20, and we are out.
You can find John on Twitter at KickedTripod and on Twitch at twitch.tv/KickedTripod. You can find JR on Twitter at Eldorian and on Twitch at twitch.tv/BlizzPro. And you can find Kevin on Twitter at Lack of Realism and on Twitch at twitch.tv/OdinTV.
Well met, hero.
BlizzPro.com. Beyond Noob.